What a difference 2 days can make. The past 24 hours had been spent completely embracing life as a woman. The mail order bride's website was the most impressive combination of technology and magic I had ever experienced, though, truthfully, I had no previous knowledge of magic. But here I was, in the body of the woman I'd always dreamed of, and it was clear to me that I had struck a great deal. I still couldn't believe Lara had convinced me to go through with this. Now, here I was, relaxing outside in the backyard, while she worked on a sketch of me by the pool. If anyone had asked me to pose for a drawing before, I would have felt embarrassed and run off in a hurry. I had never felt good about my appearance, even as a young man. But as a woman, the idea of being drawn made me feel, well, confident. Lara's hand moved steadily on the pad, her strokes fluid and quick, effortlessly compensating for my newly acquired body. It was comforting to know that my previous masculine desires hadn't been overwhelming. Lara and I were both in sync with my new body, so much so that last night's experiment with self-discovery had been underwhelming. It wasn't that it wasn't pleasurable, it was amazing, but it was nothing like I had expected. I no longer remembered what it was like to have a male body. I could recall having one, but when I touched myself, I felt only what my body had become. There was no trace of anything masculine left, just memories that were the only consistent thing. It was hard for me to even recall what I used to look like. Honestly, I didn't want to relive it. The magic from the cameo pin didn't change who I was, just enough to form the final version of myself. Mentally, I remained the same, but much had been added, new languages, skills, and talents, all seamlessly integrated. My knowledge of computers was still intact, though it hadn't been part of the Nora program. In fact, as I lay there, I was planning my next attempt at finding that elusive mail order bride's website. Lara's artistic talent was a leftover from her previous life as Miguel, along with her fluency in Spanish. Her program had added several Nordic languages, dancing skills, and surprisingly, knowledge in woodworking and masonry. Vanessa's program had given her Gaelic, photography, accounting skills, and an outdoor expertise like camping. Plus, she could sing beautifully. She had been up at dawn, ready for her work as a bookkeeper. As much as I could have stayed out in the sun all day, I knew I had class soon, organic chemistry, a subject I knew absolutely nothing about just a day ago. Lara, are you done? I've got class in an hour. Sure, she replied, I can add the rest from memory. You've got a great body. She turned the sketchpad around for me to see. Are my breasts really that pronounced? And that large? Lara chuckled and placed a hand over her own chest. Large? Compared to me, you're tiny. You're practically still a teenager. I smiled and asked, so, what do they feel like? Lara's expression shifted, her tone softening. Like I've had them my entire life. Navigating the campus felt effortless, almost instinctive. I knew exactly where I needed to be. I found my lab bench and greeted my partner with a casual smile. The lab work itself was surprisingly enjoyable, and with each passing moment, I found myself developing the same enthusiasm for the subject that Nora was supposed to have. If I had been born into this life, I could see myself loving it. But I wasn't, and I hadn't chosen this path, I'd been swept into it. After class, I made my way to the library for my meeting with Adam Rivers. Sitting outside, sipping on a diet soda, I felt out of place, awkward, even. Here I was, waiting for a guy to show up for a date. How ridiculous was that? When I spotted him, I knew it was him. No one else would have noticed me so quickly and changed direction to approach. He was tall, well, everyone seemed tall to me now, and his skin was a medium dark tone, though still clearly Caucasian. He wasn't built like a bodybuilder, but had a naturally muscular physique, the kind of body that came from working hard, not from lifting weights. And yes, he was definitely attractive. I had to admit, my reaction to him was unsettling. I wanted to run, but I couldn't decide if I wanted to run toward him or away from him. Nora? I'm Adam. I squeaked, then tried to sound more composed. Yes, I'm Nora. So, what do you want to do? We can hang out here, or grab some pizza. Your choice. His voice was smooth, and I could have melted just listening to him. Was this some kind of madness? Was it the effect of the cameo? Or was I just reacting the way a woman naturally would to an attractive man? I didn't know, and I didn't want to. I must have said something, because before long, we were heading to a pizza place off campus. For the next couple of hours, I listened to him talk. I told him the basics of my profile, but somehow, as I spoke, I added details I hadn't known before. In between thoughts about how wonderful our future children could be, I managed to ask him how he got my picture and phone number. Oh, that? I found it on Exotic Dream Dates. Didn't you know? No, Adam. I thought I was listed on a service to find an American husband. I froze. No, wait, don't run. Honestly, I could be so dumb sometimes. I'm not running. But I'm not looking for a wife, not yet anyway, he said, a little pensive. I think you should see the site where I found your profile. I think you're right, I replied. We may both have been misled. Follow me home, and you can show me on my computer. I've got a better idea, he said. We can check it from the campus network. It's closer, and after seeing this, you may not want me to know where you live. I can handle you knowing where I live, I replied, but the campus is faster, and I want to see this now. We headed back to the library and used a secluded computer on the old, clunky network. It was slow, but it worked. Adam entered his codes and brought up the Exotic Dream Dates website. It looked strikingly similar to the mail order bride site, complete with familiar photos. He browsed through the site, and I jotted down the address. We passed by pictures of Lara and Vanessa, and then we got to mine. The profile text was almost identical, though it was geared more toward dating than marriage. Adam clicked on my face shot, and the full-body photo appeared, the same one that had first caught my attention. This time, I cringed. There was a huge difference between seeing a risque photo of someone else and discovering one of yourself was publicly available. I could feel my cheeks burning, even though my dark skin kept it from being obvious. I felt embarrassed, like crawling into a hole, especially when he turned to look at me. Adam, you have to believe me, I did not pose for that picture. I believe you, he said quickly. I paid $500 for access to this site just a week ago. Your profile wasn't here when I first checked. I had to go through the entire list before I found this. He clicked on a link at the bottom of the page. They have a form for people who couldn't find their dream girl. Here's mine. Adam's dream girl description matched my appearance perfectly. But what caught my attention even more was this. I want a woman who is demure yet strong-willed, hardened by adversity but still innocent, trusting, and caring. She should be professional and emotionally stable. I don't want an easy lay or someone with a cheap attitude. Sex is easy enough to find, but I want someone who's got a lot going on up here. Wow, that was an attitude I could get behind. And it worked out, I guess, since I was currently living in the skin of his dream girl. Your profile showed up just a couple of days later, I said. Does this site have a links page? He asked. I don't know, let's check. He navigated through the site and found the links page. Most of the links were trivial, but there was one to the mail order bride site. Click that, that's where my file should be, I said, jotting down the link as it appeared on screen. Yep, it was the same site. Whatever you do, Adam, don't order anything from this. I like you just the way you are. What does that mean? Trust me, you really don't want to find out. I reached for the mouse, eager to check something on the site. I hadn't explored much of it earlier in my rush to get my own dream date, but the moment my hand touched the mouse, the screen went blank, and the hum of the power supply cut off. Normally, I would have thought the equipment had malfunctioned, but I was more cautious now. It seemed the creators of this site didn't want me, or any of its users, gaining access again. Adam, I think I need to go home and take care of some things. Call me tomorrow, and I mean it, call. On my way out, I stopped by the reference desk to report the broken computer. The woman behind the counter, a tall, slim redhead, took down the information. Then I noticed two things. First, she had a cameo pin, just like mine. Second, she was about 6 months pregnant. Her name tag read Vera Ivanova Miller. Do you mind if I ask, how long have you had that cameo? She gave me an odd look, which I totally understood. It was an unusual question. People would expect to hear, where did you get it, not how long have you had it. After a moment, she replied, about a year now. Why do you ask? I got mine yesterday morning, and I'm curious about their history. She smiled, though it wasn't a happy smile. So, you're the latest one, huh? Well, look at me. This is your future. She placed a hand on her belly. It's not terrible, but it's definitely not what I imagined my life would be. I nodded, unsure of what else to say. I'm starting to realize that there are a few other girls, besides me, in the same situation. The creators of this mess like to keep us grouped together. There are about 8 of us on campus. I used to room with some of them until I got married. We meet from time to time. I can let the others know that there are 3 new members of what we call the Cameo Club. I'd like that, and I'm sure the others will too. The hardest part about this is figuring out who we can talk to. It'll help knowing we're not alone. She handed me a piece of paper with her number. Call me tonight, and I'll get you connected with the others. One thing to remember, the first man you let go all the way with will end up being your husband. You'll form an emotional bond, and pregnancy is guaranteed. Only full intercourse works, but you can explore other types of intimacy safely. I took her words to heart as I headed home. The first thing I did was tell Laura, since she was already home, but also because her profession made her even more vulnerable. She was preparing for her first day as an exotic dancer, and the news hit her harder than it had hit me. Not that I could do much to soften it, but Laura seemed more fragile than I was. Vanessa came in, slamming the door behind her. She certainly had the fiery temper that was stereotypically Irish. According to her, it wasn't even her original temper, but now I found myself wondering who had written her profile. She was clearly frustrated with her situation. She threw a few things around in the kitchen, then joined us in the living room. What a day! First, my grabby boss, then a mind-numbing job, and to top it off, I get my first period. I've barely been a woman for a day, and I get a period. Laura and I told her the rest of the bad news. Vanessa didn't handle it well, growing quiet as we explained. As Laura left for work, Vanessa disappeared into her room. I passed by her door and heard her crying. Between sobs, she kept repeating, "I hate this, I hate this." I had to harden my heart. She had to reconcile with her new life in her own time. When she was ready, I would help her through it. I had a mission to focus on, though. I fired up my computer and launched my favorite tool, NetWolverine. This wasn't just any net cracker, it was designed to break down a site all the way to its base code, stripping it bare. NetWolverine could blast through commercial firewalls and most custom-built ones. I fed it the mail-order bride site address and set it loose. It didn't take long before it started downloading the site's source code, links, and hardware connections. Watching the raw dumps was fun, but not very informative. I'd need to go through them manually later. Then, NetWolverine stopped reporting progress. That meant it had either been blocked or had crashed the server. Moments later, I got the answer, a series of loud pops from inside my computer, followed by smoke pouring from both the CPU and the monitor. No one had the power to cause a computer meltdown like that, at least, no one I knew. But then again, no one had the power to turn a man into a woman either. I must have really upset the wrong people. I had already been warned by the glitch at the college, but did I listen? Of course not. I had to push further. Sometimes, I really do astound myself with my own stupidity. Now I had a solid reason to break down and cry. Vanessa wasn't the only one feeling overwhelmed tonight. It all seemed like too much to handle, but my lingering male instincts told me to keep it to myself, to suffer in silence. I went to bed, hoping that when I woke up, I'd still be human. It almost felt like it would be easier not to wake up at all. As you might imagine, my night was filled with fear and strange nightmares. The worst one was of myself and my two new sisters being transformed into slugs, and Adam turning into a wombat. But by morning, the only thing that had happened was the fried computer. No slugs or wombats to be found. I didn't tell Lara or Vanessa what I had done. Why add to their misery? I pulled out the hard drive, then carried the dead computer to the trash. The drive had been damaged too, but there were ways to recover the data, though I didn't have the right tools for that. I left early the next morning, not for school. Playing the role of Nora was the last thing on my mind. I needed the tools and information that it couldn't provide. Luckily, an old friend, someone who wouldn't recognize me now, could. Barney was a retired hacker, now running a computer store. It was the perfect place for me to get both the equipment and the expertise I needed. I won't bore you with the details, but 2 hours later, I was back home with a new, faster system and an extract of the old drive. As I started combing through the data Net Wolverine had captured before the meltdown, Adam called. I was too busy to meet him, but I did want a masculine presence nearby, so I invited him over. Adam sat behind me as I sifted through the mess of raw data. He looked uncomfortable, but having him there helped me focus. After a while, he asked, "What are you looking for? And why do you think you needed me? It's fine to talk to me while I work, so ask away." I didn't stop scanning the screen. Right now, I'm looking for any normal text hidden in this raw data. And the reason? I'm trying to figure out who's behind mail order brides. I turned to him and smiled briefly. Do you believe in magic? Actually, I do. My father had some ability, enough that I don't question it. I dabbled a bit when I was a teenager, but I wasn't very successful. It was enough to convince me, though. How about you? A few days ago, I would have thought magic was just a silly fantasy. But now? I've experienced it firsthand. I tapped the screen. And these people are the source of it. What did they do? Okay, trust me on this, and don't rush to think I'm crazy. The first time I saw the name Nora Lee, I touched my face, was 5 days ago on the Mail Order Brides website. I thought I was signing up for a date, but they sent me something, a cameo pin, that turned me into her. He didn't even blink. Assuming this is true, why would a woman be looking for a bride? It's simple. At the time, I was just as male as you. So were my roommates. All three of us encountered this website, and all three of us woke up women the next day. It's hard to believe, but none of you seem remotely masculine anymore. These bastards programmed us, changing our memories and personalities, but they couldn't change our minds. We remember everything. If you want confirmation, wake Lara up and ask her. He put his hand on my shoulder, the first time he'd touched me, and it felt comforting. I don't think I need to. I'm good at sensing falsehoods, and you haven't said anything that didn't ring true. I can tell you believe every word. But I'm not ready to fully commit to the idea of magic. Can you prove you were once, well, a man? Not a thing, I said. Everything that was male about me disappeared along with my old self. My God, Adam, my parents never even met in this reality. I checked. So, you're about to confront people who can rewrite reality itself. Why? I stopped, looked him in the eye, and said, I need to see the face of my executioner before they kill me. They know I'm looking for them. They have to act. I went too far last night, and now I'm going even farther. If you run now, you might avoid the wrath I'm calling down on myself. He looked at me for a moment, then said, I wanted a woman who was strong-willed. I got her. And I know I won't be allowed to keep her. He looked a little sad for a second. I knew when I met you that we wouldn't be lovers, but I also knew we'd still be together. No one can foresee their own death, but I'm in. Whatever happens, I'll be there for you. We'll face this together. Why couldn't I just let this go? Why had I dragged a good man into this mess with me? He continued, I'm as much at fault as they are. I wrote the purchase order, and they just delivered. I don't blame you, I said. Wait, I think I found it. Found what? Mail order bride's home address, it's not far from here. In the city, actually, not somewhere unreachable like Afghanistan. And what are you planning to do with it? I couldn't help but laugh. Save them the trouble of coming for me. I'd like to see them face to face before they decide my fate. I jotted down the address and wiped the hard drive. No point in leaving behind any traces for someone else to follow. I didn't want to cause trouble for my new friends. I wasn't a soldier, not as a man, and certainly not now. But since they hadn't struck me down yet, I figured I still had a little time left. Adam and I went out for dinner, but already, I could feel the dynamic between us shifting. He wasn't looking at me as a date anymore, but as a fellow survivor in this mess. I could only imagine how hard it must be for him, meeting the woman of his dreams only to find she had paid such a heavy price to become who she was. Throughout the meal, his eyes kept drifting to my chest. More specifically, to the cameo I had instinctively pinned to my blouse. I wasn't surprised when he reached over and unfastened it. I kept acting as if nothing was happening, but I held my breath as he silently examined it, testing the point of the pin with his finger. He didn't press hard enough to break the skin, but I couldn't help wondering what he was thinking. The cameo had risks. It wasn't just a pin anymore, but a symbol of the magic that had transformed my life. I'd have been cautious, maybe even scared to touch it. He slid it face down across the table and nodded toward my purse. I understood immediately and tucked it away. The cameo had brought us together, but now it felt like it was keeping us apart. And I won't bore you with the details of our conversation. As a longtime programmer and he as a comp/sci major at the college, we ended up talking about hardware and software. There was no need to bring up the topics of sex or my future plans, neither of us were ready to go there. If you appreciated this story and wish to show your support, don't forget to join me on Patreon for exclusive content.